Do you follow proper viewing home etiquette? If you don't know what that means, stick around. On Q&A Sunday today, we're going to cover 7 tips to make sure you are home etiquette savvy. Hey everyone, I'm Rich Dallas, Berkshire Hathaway, the Dallas-Fincham team, and on today's episode of Q&A Sunday, we're going to cover viewing home etiquette. Now, that might sound funny, it might sound silly, but there is a proper way about showing a house, and then if you don't follow these 7 tips, it can get, it just not be good. So let's dive in to tip number 1, be pre-approved. Don't go out and look at houses if you're not ready to buy. If you aren't buyer ready, which we covered in another episode of Q&A Sunday a few weeks ago, if you don't know what buyer ready is, reach out to me or someone on my team and we'll get you buyer ready. But don't go out and look at houses if you're not pre-approved. Be on time. There's nothing worse than your agent showing up and then you calling 15 minutes after you should be there and saying you're going to be 15 minutes late, which means you're actually 30 minutes late. But not only is it inconvenient for the agent, it's also inconvenient for the seller. And that's the most important part, is you want to make sure that you give a good impression to that seller, because you don't want them to have a bad taste in your mouth if you go to make an offer on that house. Next thing, leave no trace behind. It's like going out into the woods and you're going on a hike. You don't want to leave any trace behind. Don't throw your litter anywhere. Don't leave footprints in the house when you go show a house. That is proper etiquette. So if it's raining, remove your shoes, put booties on if you have to, whatever it is. And when by booties, those are usually provided by the buyer or the seller or the seller's agent in the house. So if the weather's not good outside, just make sure you're covering your feet and don't leave any trace behind, or slip those shoes off. I covered that a long time ago on proper things to wear on showings, and comfy shoes that slip on and off, number 1 on the list. Keep the rude comments to yourself. You never know who has a recording in their house, and you're not allowed to do that. So I also covered that on another episode about recording people in your house is not allowed in Pennsylvania. But Ring doorbells, totally allowed. Any outside cameras, totally allowed. So just keep the rude comments to yourself, because you just don't know who's listening. And I could be showing you my best friend's house and then you tear it apart. And then I tell you, oh yeah, by the way, this is my best friend's house. And then you're like, ooh. So keep the rude comments to yourself. If you don't like the house, just move on, go to the next one. One of the other things, limit the entourage. What you don't want to do is bring 7, 8, 9, 10 people to a showing, because there's one, it's just chaos. It's bad for the agent to keep track of everybody, and 2, it doesn't make any sense. There's conversations happening here. One person is going into the kitchen, the other person is going in the basement. Like, you just can't keep track of everybody, and then it ends up making it just not good for anybody. So keep the entourage to the people who are really making the decisions. So if you're a couple and you have mom and dad coming with you, totally fine, totally normal. But what you don't want is your cousin, your aunt, your uncle, and your friend Bobby Joe from down the road. One of the other things is take nothing with you. Don't steal anything. Be kind. Rewind. No, just kidding. But honestly, make sure your kids, that's where it really happens most often, is a kid will pick up a toy, not realize, oh, I forgot to put it down. But just make sure you don't leave or don't take anything with you. And if you want to take photos, make sure you ask your agent permission first before you just start snapping photos of everything, because there could be some regulations that you might need to follow if it's mentioned on the MLS. And last but certainly not least, don't overstay your welcome. If you're looking at a house, 30 to 45 minutes is a decent amount of time to look at a house. Now, if you want to go back, we will by all means take you back. We're not trying to rush you. We don't want to make anything like that, but just, you don't want to inconvenience the seller any more than you have to. And if you're there for an hour and a half, you better be writing the best offer ever. Because otherwise, why would you take that long to analyze a house? Most showings take about 15 to 30 minutes. So if you're in that 30-minute range, give or take a little, that's totally normal. And again, if you don't like the house, don't waste a whole lot of time. If you know the moment you walk in, this is not the house for you, you don't need to look at the basement. You don't need to look upstairs. You don't need to look at the backyard, because if you don't like it, none of that's going to change your mind. So just move on to the next house and keep going. So those are a couple of tips for viewing home etiquette. I hope it was helpful. If you have anything you want to see on a future episode, let me know. My number is 412-965-6387. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share this with a friend. Have a great Sunday. Take care.